Les matinales.
Une idée matinale consacrée donc aujourd'hui à la littérature américaine et à l'un des plus grands auteurs américains, l'un de ceux qui vend le plus, l'un de ceux qui le plus intelligemment parle un peu de judaïsme, un peu des États-Unis et beaucoup de lui-même ou de sa famille ou peut-être de sa famille dans ce livre absolument remarquable. Moonglow, Mickael Chambon, bonjour, hello. Merci beaucoup d'être avec nous aujourd'hui. On a dit qu'on allait essayer de faire moitié français, moitié anglais.
Ok. Essayer.
Vous allez essayer, je vais essayer et on va se débrouiller. Mickael Chambon, je l'ai dit, vous êtes l'un des auteurs les plus connus, les plus vendus aux États-Unis et dans le monde. Lauréat du prix Pulitzer, ce n'est pas rien, c'est pour l'un de vos précédents livres. Et le dernier livre, Moonglow, qui vient de paraître en France. J'ai lu beaucoup de critiques sur le livre. J'ai évidemment dévoré le livre que j'ai adoré, parce que c'était un livre incroyable. L'un des critiques a dit Mickael Chambon produit plus de belles phrases dans un seul roman que bon nombre d'auteurs dans toute leur vie. C'est le critique et je le partage. Gentil. Mais c'est vrai, parce que ce qui est difficile, moi j'ai souvent l'habitude quand je lis de noter au fur et à mesure des phrases pour en parler après avec l'auteur et le faire réagir. Et avec vous c'est très compliqué parce que j'avais envie de noter quasiment chaque phrase. Donc j'en ai quand même noté quelques-unes sur lesquelles on va réagir. D'abord Mickael Chambon, ce livre, est-ce que c'est un roman ou est-ce que c'est des mémoires? J'imagine que beaucoup de mes confrères ont dû vous poser la question. Il n'y a pas de raison que je la pose pas non plus. Donc je vous la pose. Et en même temps, double question, est-ce qu'au fond, c'est si important de savoir si c'est vos mémoires ou un livre? Ou un roman totalement?
C'est un roman. Il n'y a pas question. C'est un roman. C'est un roman qui prend la forme du mémoire. Mais comme tous mes romans, il y a dans presque chacune de mes romans, il y a un mélange des choses, mes vrais souvenirs, mes vraies expériences et des choses inventées. Et la proportion de l'un ou de l'autre, ça change, dépend de le livre. Mais là, j'ai tiré certaines choses, des descriptions des personnages de certains de mes ancêtres, mon grand-père, mais aussi ses frères et le frère de ma grand-mère et des vrais hommes j'ai tiré des détails pour créer le grand-père. Pour créer quelqu'un d'autre. Mais il n'est pas mon grand-père. Le grand-père dans le roman, il est complètement un personnage fictif.
Alors, ses grands-parents, dont il est beaucoup question dans le livre navigue remarquablement entre plusieurs époques. On passe de l'époque de la guerre à l'époque actuelle. On passe d'une époque à l'autre, on passe d'une émotion à l'autre aussi, à travers votre livre, à travers beaucoup d'émotions. Est-ce que c'est un livre, après on va détailler ce qu'il y a dedans, est-ce que c'est un livre qui a une place à part dans votre carrière déjà si nombreuse avec autant de livres?
Je crois que après mon bouquin Les aventures des cavaliers clés, j'ai changé mon projet comme romancier. J'ai commencé à explorer les genres littéraires qui me plaisent comme lecteur. Série noire, fantasy,
bande dessinée,
science fiction, bande dessinée. Donc, ce roman qui prend forme de mémoire, mémoire, c'est un autre genre que me plaît comme lecteur. Et dans ce sens, ça fait partie de mon grand projet comme écrivain. Mais
you can switch in English.
There's some, because this one was drawn overtly in some ways from my experience, my actual life. In the past, when I've written fiction and I've used details from my parents' marriage or my life or family stories or whatever it might be, it's always disguised in a way it's openly disguised, if that makes sense. Everyone who picks it up knows that they're reading a novel that's about fictional characters. So they're not necessarily going to be thinking like, is this really you? And is that really? In this one, I'm doing exactly the same thing. It's still disguised. So I might have taken a detail from the life of my grandfather and I disguised it and gave it to a fictional character. But that fictional character is called my grandfather. So I knew that I was going to be causing different questions to arise in my reader's mind.
Ça c'est vrai. Alors c'est vrai que après tout, ce qui est en tout cas de plus remarquable dans le livre, c'est qu'ils sont extrêmement attachants, ces deux personnages de vos grands-parents, des grands-parents en tout cas du narrateur dans le livre. Vous dites dans le livre que où vous racontez aussi l'enfance de ce grand-père et puis ce qu'il va faire pendant la guerre. Vous dites qu'il y avait deux passions dans sa vie, qui étaient sa femme, donc la grand-mère, et l'épopée spatiale, les vaisseaux spatiaux, les vols spatiaux.
Oui. I'm from the generation that grew up with the space race.
Yes.
You know, and as a child, it really captured my imagination. And, the Apollo landings on the moon and, the whole adventure of NASA in the 1960s and then the early 70s was a very important part of my life. And coming of age at a time, you know, at the same time as Vietnam and lots of other difficult, dark passages in American history. The space program always seemed, you know, when I was a boy, when I was a kid, it was like, this is a good thing, you know, that we've this heroic adventure. So then, you know, to discover very, you know, maybe just in the past 20 years or so, I started to hear, and as I was writing this book, I learned much more about the history, the true history of the American space program and the role of Wernher von Braun in, who was, you know, this Nazi scientist who created the V2 rockets and you know, was an important part of the German military machine during World War II, and to find out that he had been the father. I mean, we knew he was the father of the American space program. Yes, everyone knew that. But what we didn't know was, because it was hidden, and it wasn't just hidden by von Braun, it was hidden by the U.S. government, very, very deliberately hidden, was just the degree to which he was a war criminal. And to learn that for me, and you know, and
difficult.
It was difficult, and I had created this character of the grandfather, and made him interested in spaceflight. And actually, you know, my grandfather and I, that was something we shared. We were both interested in spaceflight and so on. You know, so it felt like a natural thing to be writing about. But then, as I did more research and I learned more, I got angrier. And the angrier I got, then the angrier the grandfather became in the book. And the more his story became one of frustration and anger and even the desire for revenge.
Et il y a d'autres révélations dans le livre, évidemment, on va pas le lire, il y a beaucoup de surprises et de révélations, mais ce livre traite aussi finalement beaucoup de la relation entre la vérité et le mensonge. Ça aussi, c'est ce qui vous intéressait?
Oui, mais it's because, you know, as a novelist, comme romancier, je fais des mensonges.
Ben oui, c'est votre travail.
Oui, c'est mon travail. Mais je le fais avec le
consentement.
Oui,
l'accord
du lecteur.
Yes.
The reader says, tell me a lie. Right? And I say, here's a lie. It's a lie. But I'm going to make it a good one. And the reader says, okay, just make it a good one. With the rise of the memoir, the literary memoir, which has become very popular in the United States in the past 20 years or so, I think it's the same here in France. There's been a real vogue for literary memoirs. Just by putting that word memoir on the front, so it says memoir instead of roman, the reader lets his or her guard down. The reader will take anything as the truth because it says memoir. And yet all of us knows how faulty our memories are. And that, memory is a fictional tool. When you ask two people who were at the same event to give their memories of it, they won't. They disagree, right? So we all know that. We all know that our memories are fictionalizing. So then why do we see something that says memoir, we think, oh, this is going to be the truth. And as a novelist, that offends me. Because to me, I think that you can really tell the truth by lying in a way that you can't tell by when you're telling the truth. You're actually presenting a work of fiction, but when you present a work of fiction, you can actually tell the truth. So,
very nice. On a parfaitement compris. Alors, la grand-mère, c'est une vraie et belle histoire d'amour entre les deux. Vous racontez la rencontre de manière assez incroyable, une rencontre qui aurait pas dû se faire et qui se fait. Et enfin, c'est un couple vraiment très joli. Et la grand-mère, on va le comprendre au fur et à mesure, et rester complètement traumatisée de la Shoah. Elle a ce cheval écorché dans la tête, et elle va osciller toute sa vie entre les périodes où elle va aller à peu près bien, ou alors on croit qu'elle va bien, et puis où elle va aller très mal. Pourquoi cette image de cheval écorché, pour symboliser ce qu'elle vit et ses souvenirs de la Shoah?
Honestly, I don't know for sure. I was looking for something. I wanted to find some way that her madness would be embodied, and for some reason I thought of a horse. And horses, I love horses. They're very beautiful animals, but there's something also very unearthly, very strange, and
very frightening
even about horses. There can be the nightmare, so it seemed like a horse was sort of the right direction, and then I just suddenly hit on this idea of a horse with no skin, and it just, I don't know. I honestly, I don't really know where it came from. But, I was, I wanted there to be something, because I knew I was never going to go into the grandmother's point of view.
That's true.
Because she has her secrets. And if I went into her, if you were privy to her thoughts, if you knew her thoughts, then you would know her secrets. And I didn't want you to know that, so I stayed out of her mind. But then if I stay out of her mind, I need some way to let the reader know she's mad, she's crazy. So I had to come up with some way of symbolizing it or figuring it. So that's what I came up with.
Bien sûr, il y a une phrase aussi dans le livre où il dit la pluie menaçait toujours dans le cœur de son épouse. Et c'est ça, c'est en permanence cet aller-retour là.
Oui, mais il avait toujours un
parapluie. Et c'est ça qui est très joli aussi. Il y a un lien très fort entre le petit-fils et sa grand-mère. Il y a aussi une autre, je suis désolée, j'ai pris plein de phrases, cette phrase très jolie où il dit que peut-être plus que quelqu'un d'autre, peut-être même plus que sa propre mère, she will not leave my eyes. Elle ne me quittera pas des yeux.
Yes, I mean, she's got so many fears, and she's been through so much trauma, as you say, that and that moment that you're talking about was a key moment for me in trying to understand. I had written most of this novel, and I had completed it, and I had given it to my wife and my editor and another reader of mine, and hoping I was close to being done. And when they came, they all said more or less the same thing: we want more grandmother. And my first reaction, was like, I can't have more grandmother, because, like I was saying before, if I go into her point of view, then you'll know too much about her. And she's an enigma. She's so. But then I realized, no, that's not right. I'm missing one very important window on the character, and I realized I had never written about the grandmother from the grandson's point of view, from the point of view as his childhood memories of her. True. So when I added this material throughout the book that's of his relationship to the grandmother. But then what it became was partly an American Jewish child's experience of an older relative who has been through Shoah, and has his fragmentary way that he starts to put the evidence together, that he starts to try to understand. You know, she has the numbers tattooed on her arm, and what does that mean? And she doesn't talk about her experiences at all. So, you know, one of the first things that the narrator understands about his grandmother is that she won't take her eyes off him, that she never wants to let him out of her sight.
Elle ne parle pas beaucoup avec lui, c'est ce que vous venez de dire, ce numéro tatoué, mais elle joue avec lui, elle joue aux cartes.
Les cartes.
Les cartes.
Oui. Et des cartes, I can't even think of the word in English. They're like, it's not like tarot, but it's similar to tarot cards, for fortune telling cards. So, you know, she has
tarot
these,
en France.
Yeah, they're like, it's a kind of tarot, and it has a French name, but I'm blanking out there.
C'est pas grave.
So, Le Normand cards, they're called. They're named after the woman who invented them. So for the grandmother, there are these fortune telling cards, but she doesn't use them to tell fortunes. She uses them to tell stories. And she plays the game with the grandson, where she tells him stories based on the cards that he chooses.
Vous l'avez dit, c'est un livre qui est profondément juif, Mickael Chambon, comme j'ai envie de dire la plupart de tous vos livres. Il y a cette phrase, je vais reprendre encore 2-3 phrases. En 1947, pour mon grand-père, il existait une seule raison de persister à se revendiquer juif, de continuer à être juif devant la face du monde, envoyer Hitler se faire foutre. J'ai besoin de vous retraduire en anglais ou non, c'est bon. C'est the only reason to continue to be Jewish, Hitler get fucked.
Right. Say fuck you to Hitler.
Voilà, fuck you Hitler. We can say it a lot of times.
Right.
Pourquoi Enfin, c'est la seule...
Because for him, this man, my grandfather, he's not a religious man at all. He has no religious belief whatsoever. He never did. He grew up in a religious family. His brother became a rabbi, but he never had any religious feeling. In fact, if anything, he had anti-religious feeling, not just anti-Jewish, anti-all religious feeling. He himself, I think, is surprised to discover the degree to which being Jewish is important to him after the war, after everything he's
Perhaps
seen.
he's surprised to be Jew again.
Well, yeah, I think it's that it's when he's mourning, it's when he's grieving, that he starts to go to shul, starts to go to services to say Kaddish. And this is a behavior that surprises him because he doesn't pray and he doesn't believe in anything. There's no religious basis for him for saying Kaddish, and yet he feels this compulsion to go do it. And I think it's in partly for him to be Jewish and alive after Hitler is in itself meaningful. Is meaningful.
Il y avait aussi des moments, alors il y a des moments très drôles dans le livre. Je l'ai dit, on va d'une émotion à une autre. Ça, c'est un truc typiquement ashkénaze. C'est quand il parle de l'illettrisme, je crois, de la grand-mère, mais elle l'obligeait à se faire lire la presse yiddish tous les jours pour savoir quelles étaient les dernières calamités qui étaient arrivées à la communauté juive. So ashkénaze.
Yes, very much so.
mais tout à fait exact. Alors il y a une autre phrase dans le livre. Là aussi, on en revient à ce que vous disiez par rapport au judaïsme, par rapport à ce que ça peut être après la Shoah. À un moment donné, vous dites les Jews are good for death. Les Juifs, on est bons.
Good at death.
Voilà, good at death. Alors là, forcément, il nous faut quelques explications. Pourquoi, selon vous?
Well, I think for me, it struck me, and I am not I have had periods in my life where I was more observant or less observant as a Jew. Currently, I'm in one of my less observant periods. But I have noticed, it does seem to me like of all the Jewish strongest, most important Jewish traditions, the one that I see as, in a practical sense, the most useful and effective are all the practices around Shiva and mourning and yahrzeit and all of that stuff. The customs and practices, they seem to me to be very nuanced and very understanding of what actually the experience of grief is like. That it is powerful. It is so powerful that it makes you to acknowledge that you are incapacitated by grief for a week, 1 week where you just don't do it, don't try to do anything, and then
just think and
little by little, you do start to recover. But it takes a year and a day, or whatever it is, that the mourning period,
that's true.
The periods of time that are associated with grief and mourning, and the customs that are associated, they seem they're smart, they're intelligent, they work, they're effective. And so I think that's what I meant by that.
That's what I mean. And that's is
other things like circumcision. That's where you get into like, really, is that really? Yes, I understand the significance of it, etc. But really, is it who does it help? But with the mourning rituals, they're clearly they help those who are grieving.
Vous me disiez il y a un instant qu'il y a des périodes de votre vie où vous avez été plus pratiquant, d'autres moins pratiquants. C'est quoi votre façon aujourd'hui d'être juif? On est au lendemain, on peut le dire, on enregistre cette interview, on est au lendemain du Yom Kippour. C'est quoi votre façon d'être juif aujourd'hui? C'est d'écrire comme vous écrivez, de faire vivre le judaïsme, la mémoire, des personnages si typiquement juifs comme ça?
Yes, I think so. I mean, the religious component has fallen away from me recently, in the past 4 or 5 years. Maybe I'll find my way back to that again eventually in some way. I don't know. But it is partly to write and to continue to make stories out of Jewish materials and the materials of my family and its history, or of the history of Jewish people, the American Jewish history, world history of the Jews. That's part of it. I think it's also to stay engaged with my fellow Jews, if not in a religious way, then to stay engaged culturally, to stay engaged politically, even if I'm engaging politically in a way that puts me at odds with a lot of my fellow Jews, still to care about Israel, to care about the fate of Israel, what happens to Israel, to care about what happens in Palestine and the fate of Palestinians, to care about what's happening to Jews here in Europe, in France and in other parts of Europe, to stay connected and to feel connected with Jews everywhere.
You're a good rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mickael.
Merci beaucoup.
Mickael Chambon, c'était un plaisir de vous avoir. C'est Moonglow, c'est vraiment l'un des romans à lire absolument en ce début d'année juive et d'année début. Donc Shana Tova, à vous, très belle année, et au plaisir de vous retrouver ici à Paris. On se retrouve dans quelques instants pour la suite de cette émission spéciale avec des auteurs américains. À tout de suite.